Hey everybody, it's Kevra.
That's me, I'm Kevra. And today's sorry, who are you?
Oh, I'm also Kevra.
Okay. Anyway.
Just taller.
Yeah, no, we can see that. Anyway.
More muscular.
Well, you didn't need to point that out.
Better looking.
Okay, that's subjective.
Everyone says I smell better too.
Okay, do I smell bad?
And just in every way possible, a little better than you.
That's not completely true.
Oh, it's true.
It's almost like this is an analogy for today's video. Damn you, Mario Kart! I'm clearly Kirby in the situation. Look at our hairline.
For the past few years, I have repeatedly said that I believe the new Mario Kart game would be a launch title for the successor to the Nintendo Switch console. So Mario Kart World being a launch title for Switch 2, not remotely shocking. But you know what did completely blindside me was the fact that we are getting a sequel to Kirby Air Ride. And while that fact just kind of blew my mind, the bigger thing that blew my mind was the fact that it got announced for this year, the exact same year that Mario Kart World is coming out. Now, the first reason why I'm shocked that they're even doing a Kirby Air Ride in the first place is because of the fact that I figured if they ever did another Nintendo racing game featuring a flagship character like Kirby, it would have been on the original Nintendo Switch. And there's two reasons why I say that. The first one, it goes back to something that I can't remember if it was an actual quote from Nintendo or if it was just some idea that someone had and I kind of agreed with the theory of it. But basically, what I heard at some point, Nintendo didn't want two franchises that were similar. In other words, and I think this was a response to someone asking about the next F-Zero title, and this was like 10 to 15 years ago. But anyway, their response was, we've already got Mario Kart and we don't want to have two racing games unless they feel vastly different from one another. We don't want our consumers to feel like we're just giving them the same product over and over again. And in the business world, that essentially translates to Nintendo didn't want another racing game to compete with Mario Kart. Mario Kart was their big flagship title, and they thought there was no need to make another racing game because that would just divide up the audience. Or the racing game that isn't Mario Kart just wouldn't do well. And when I read that years ago, it made a lot of sense. You know, either Mario Kart's just gonna dominate the other one, or, you know, it's just gonna be kind of a divisive fan base where some people go to this one, some people go to that one, and it's like, why not just have everyone under one umbrella playing the same racing game? Now, as a consumer, especially if you like Diddy Kong Racing more, or if you like F-Zero more, you're gonna say, well, the reason you have those different games is because they're not the same. I like this one a lot more than I like Mario Kart. But Nintendo doesn't really care about that. In the exact same way that they don't care about translating Mother 3 because they feel like it'll sell, but at the same time, it's not gonna sell well enough. So why waste the money and the resources? But the Nintendo Switch was a completely different situation. That never got a new Mario Kart game. They tried to make Mario Kart World for the Nintendo Switch, but when they couldn't do it, they gave up and made DLC for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe instead. And when that happened, everyone knew that we were not going to get a new Mario Kart game for the Nintendo Switch. Which is why I felt like it was the perfect time to do a Diddy Kong Racing 2, or a new F-Zero, or a new Kirby Air Ride, or, you know, even a brand new racing game with like Animal Crossing characters, or heck, even just remaking or remastering one of those older racing games. But they didn't. And no, we're not counting F-Zero 99. That was basically the Super Nintendo game, but adapted to have 99 people in it. I mean, it was Super Nintendo graphics. It wasn't gonna have the same mass appeal that a Diddy Kong Racing 2 would, or some sort of remake would actually have. So no, Nintendo did not take advantage of the absence of a new Mario Kart game being on the Nintendo Switch. And you could argue, well, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe might have been a port, but mostly no one played it on the Wii U, so this is a brand new Mario Kart to most people, so it would have had that competition. And you know what? I think that's a fair argument. But even though only 10 million copies were sold on the Wii U compared to the 60 million sold on the Switch, that's still 10 million people who I'm sure would have been dying to play a new racing game of some sort. And not just them, because you didn't have to buy a copy on the Wii U just to play it. It could have easily been your friends, you could have rented the copy, you could have borrowed a copy. And then I'm sure some people who played it for the first time on the Switch also were getting tired of it because it came out on the first year of the Nintendo Switch. So releasing a new racing game in 2022 or 2023 would have been perfect. But once again, they chose not to do that, and so I figured that they were not going to be doing any more racing games unless they had some crazy brand new idea that was really, really different than Mario Kart. And that's why when I was watching the Kirby trailer in the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, and all of a sudden that star started to get jet engines, I was shocked because I knew that meant Kirby Air Ride, but it was so weird to me that they would be announcing that game, especially in the same Direct as Mario Kart World. But honestly, that wasn't even the most shocking part. The most shocking part to see was 2025. Like, it is such a terrible idea to release Mario Kart World and then just a few months later, Kirby Air Riders. And then on top of that, they both have a cartoon-like art style. Because, at least F-Zero looks a little bit more, I don't want to say real looking, but, it's less cartoony, we'll say that. And they're really, really hyping up Mario Kart World. It's gonna be the biggest Mario Kart game. It's an open world racer, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. And then you got Kirby Air Ride right next to it. Now, we don't have any details about this game, but how do they plan on selling this considering Mario Kart World is coming out? Like, that's clearly going to outsell Kirby Air Ride. Like, if you're gonna pick between two racing games, are you gonna pick the super popular one that everyone else is playing? Or are you gonna go with Kirby Air Ride, which I'm not saying it's a worse game, but it's definitely not going to be as popular. Like, this would be such a better game to release a few years down the road once people have started getting tired of Mario Kart. Yeah, if you're getting a new system, you're probably still gonna get Mario Kart because this is your first time getting a Switch 2, it's the first time you can play it, it's still the bigger title, it's the more well-known franchise, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. But for the people who've already owned a Switch 2 for a while, who've already been playing Mario Kart World for a while, this would be a perfect replacement when you've grown tired of playing Mario Kart World. Now, that being said, I have to once again acknowledge that we don't know anything about this game, and it could be, as I suggested earlier, something completely different than what we know about most racing games. This could be a very, very different game than Mario Kart, and they're gonna really emphasize that, and they're gonna tell you why it's so cool, why it's so different, and why you should get both of these titles. Because even though they're both racing games, it's apples to oranges. They are worlds apart different. And I don't care how big of a Kirby Air Ride fan you are, you have to admit, it's really not that different from Mario Kart. It might handle a little bit differently, but you could make that exact same argument for each Mario Kart game. Like Mario Kart 64 and Mario Kart 8 definitely don't feel the exact same. So yeah, I just want to make it clear that I'm not saying that they aren't different at all. I'm not saying that they're the exact same game. I'm just saying that they are very similar. And because of that, I am worried that sales aren't going to do well and that this is going to be a discouragement for Nintendo to try other Nintendo racers. That's why I'm kind of hoping it gets delayed, because I really do think the best case scenario would have been them releasing this game like 2 years ago, when everyone was dying for a new Mario Kart, but instead of getting a new Mario Kart game, you got this instead. I think it would have sold tremendously well, and I think it would have encouraged Nintendo to not just focus on Mario Kart as their one single racing game for Nintendo. But of course that didn't happen. Instead, we didn't get any new racing game for the Nintendo Switch, and now that Mario Kart World is coming out, the next best scenario is that Kirby Air Ride gets delayed. It likely won't get delayed. It is very likely still coming out this year. And so I am worried that Kirby Air Riders is going to fall flat on its face, and when that happens, this might be the nail in the coffin for Nintendo actually doing other Nintendo racers. Which means no more sequels to Kirby Air Riders, no more F-Zero games, no Diddy Kong Racing sequels. Mario Kart reigns supreme, and everything else doesn't matter. We don't need to make all these other racers because they don't sell nearly as well. And as someone who wants more Nintendo races, like, don't get me wrong, Mario Kart is actually my favorite out of all of them, but like, I want to see other racing franchises also exist and succeed. Like, if a Nintendo generation is going to last 7 or 8 years, I don't want to be stuck with the one single same racing game. Like, yeah, I'll totally roll my eyes at anyone who's like, oh my gosh, Diddy Kong Racing was vastly superior to Mario Kart 64. I'm like, no, it wasn't. But that doesn't mean that I wouldn't want a Diddy Kong Racing sequel. But maybe you disagree. Maybe you think that Kirby Air Riders coming out less than 6 months later of Mario Kart World is actually a stroke of genius. Maybe you think it's a good substitute for DLC. Mario Kart World isn't getting DLC, so this is a good substitute for those people who are craving more races here in like 6 months. I personally don't think that's the case, but I have been wrong before.
Alright, that's gonna do it for today's video. A big thank you to my friend Kart, who volunteered. Who didn't volunteer? I dragged him into doing this. He did not want to do this, but I'm like, who else do I know that's better than me in every way? It's gotta be you, Kart. And he's like, alright, cool. But anyway, let us know your thoughts down in the comment below. And until next time, I'll catch you later.